Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of PodSaveChocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host today. And today we're going to be having a tasting and an interview with the founder of SIAMAYA chocolate in Thailand, Neil Ransom. Now, because of the time difference, the interview and tasting portion of this has been pre-recorded. But what I want to do is I want to share the fact that this episode of PodSaveChocolate, like every episode of PodSaveChocolate, is sponsored by the members. And here is the post for today's episode. This gives a run of show as well as links to the SIAMAYA website. There's a little map here to indicate where in Thailand they're located, because Chiang Mai is not necessarily obvious, but you can find out where they're located. And then the bars that we tasted, and then links to where you can go purchase SIAMAYA chocolate. And this is on their website. So I do mention that in the post going forward. So this is the homepage of the Chocolate Life right now, right? And this episode is sponsored by the members. So you can go and click on the green button up here. Or if you're not logged in as I am, it'll say plus or join down here in the lower right-hand corner. And you can become a member of the Chocolate Life. There's always a free membership, but if you do have the resources to support the work we do, it's all greatly appreciated. And it's a fairly long interview, so what I want to do is I want to get started with the interview. Now, excuse me, I am paying attention, so I'm here. I'm going to be watching the entire thing. I'm live. The closing is live. So if you do go into the comments and let me know where in the world you're connecting from, I can get that information up on screen. Give it a quick shout out. If you do have a comment or question, I will be seeing them and I can respond to you via chat. So that hasn't changed, right? But I do want to bring Neil up on stage for the interview portion of this, and I'll be back on the other side. Neil, welcome to this episode of PodSaveChocolate. It's really, really lovely to have you here. Now, for the people who are going to be watching this, it's early in the morning where you are in Thailand. It is getting towards sunset here in Arizona. There's a 14 or 15 hour time difference. And so if we were to do this live, it'd be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning for where you are. So thank you for joining me here today. So I want to begin, as I begin many of these episodes, with exploring, number one, you're an American in Thailand. And so number one, why Thailand? And number two, what were you doing before you got into chocolate? And what was the inspiration? Just like pick up and move, right? And go do something else halfway around the world.
Well, thank you, Clay, for having me on today. It's a delight to be able to participate in your podcast. And it was fun to meet you in New York a month ago in person. Yeah, so I kind of fell into chocolate. It was not anything that I had planned to do. The journey started when I did my dissertation research. I studied climate change adaptation, and I was in Kenya doing my dissertation research. Kind of had some, as with many, happens to many people who are doing some like a big 7-year education project. Towards the end, a lot of stuff changed in my life, and I decided I kind of wanted a little reset. So after I had finished collecting all my data in Kenya, all my interviews, I traveled to Chiang Mai. And the plan was just to stay in Chiang Mai, Thailand for a year while I wrote my dissertation, go back to the US and defend and move on with kind of an academic career. And as happens, while I was in Chiang Mai, the reason I ended up in Chiang Mai is my brother at the time was doing, he does manufacturing in China. And so he had invited me to come visit. So I stopped in Chiang Mai to get my visa, and I could see it's a pretty easy to live place, and the cost of living is significantly lower than Washington, D.C., where I was at before, which kind of spurred the interest. But he ended up moving to Chiang Mai shortly after I did, and he did a trip to Cape Town, South Africa, and invited me to tag along. So while I was in Cape Town, I went to a couple craft chocolate companies there. They had De Villiers. I don't know if they're still making chocolate. There was another company called Cocoa Fair that was at the old biscuit mill in Cape Town, and then another chocolate company called Honest Chocolate. And so it was like in the process of seeing craft chocolate being made, especially at Honest Chocolate, where you could see these bags of beans coming in burlap sacks, and then fancy chocolate coming out the other end. And you could witness the entire transformation process happening kind of before your eyes. That really captivated my interest. I had always loved chocolate, but to see how it was being made and crafted in this at that scale, and to see that transformation of agriculture product to a premium product was really what got me interested. And then also you had all these flavors, all these unique, and you'll see all of this has influenced the chocolate I make, but you saw these unique local flavors with rooibos, with masala chai, with local spices and fruits that no industrial chocolate company could make, because it's such a niche product range. And it kind of blew me away and really expanded my perception of what chocolate could be. And then it was later that happened probably around middle of the year 2026 or 2016. And then later that year, on a visa run, I went to Vietnam and just happened to look if there were any chocolate companies there, and happenstancely stumbled on Maru, the famous chocolate company from Vietnam, and went to their flagship store in Ho Chi Minh and was totally blown away. Plus then had this realization, wait, Thailand and Vietnam are the same geographic region. If you can grow cocoa beans in Vietnam, they must be growing in Thailand. And so really that was what kind of spurred the interest. And then I came back to Thailand kind of on the hunt for a local Thai chocolate, and could not find anything or anyone doing anything around chocolate. So really it was an interest in trying to find, and if I couldn't find, then create a Thai chocolate for me to try.
But it's a really interesting trajectory. I'm thinking Washington, D.C. to Kenya, maybe Nairobi, maybe not, but Washington, D.C. to Kenya, to Chiang Mai, to Cape Town and Joburg, right? Back to Thailand, to Vietnam, back to Thailand is not a normal journey for someone. And you didn't go to Thailand in search of cacao and chocolate.
No.
Right. The inspiration came again, from a far distant place, and then you came back to Thailand. Now, which says you weren't aware that cacao was growing in Thailand from your first couple of visits. It's something you discovered after the fact. All right. So, did you have any experience in food manufacturing? You said your brother, I think you said, meant he was in China at the time, not your brother at the time, because I'm assuming he's always been and still is your brother. But no background in food manufacturing, no background in cocoa, no background in nothing. So you find yourself in northern Thailand. I mean, it's about as far north from as it is possible to go from the Gulf of Thailand, as it is called.
Right.
Probably previously the Gulf of Siam, I'm guessing. But that takes quite a leap of faith, or it takes something. So what came first? You said, okay, I'm going to set up the chocolate factory, or I'm going to find local suppliers of cocoa.
Right. So at the time, I had started the company, well, had the idea, and was joined with a friend And kind of the deal was that I would go back to defend my thesis, and by this time I had started to do some, like, in my free time when I wasn't doing dissertation work, I was learning about what I could find available, learning about craft chocolate. Um, and kind of the deal was, if he could find a cacao supplier, then I would come back to Thailand and we would start. And it just so happens that in Chiang Mai there was a professor at Meizhou University whose expertise was in shade grown crop trees, and so his expertise was coffee, but then also he um, had been working on doing some of his own varieties of cacao. And so then we stumbled into this professor at Meizhou University, and they had just recently started growing and fermenting and producing cacao. So this was kind of the first cacao we used, called IM1 variety from Meizhou University. And I think we were the first people to show up and express any interest in buying cacao from them. And they were quite delighted, until we started. And again, I think more was going on than because I don't speak Thai, and as a foreigner, it was quite difficult to get into Thai forums and find information. So there was stuff going on especially in southern Thailand, because that's where the cacao grows more easily. Um, but I wasn't really aware of it. So this was the first we had figured out, was this IM1 variety from Meizhou University. They had set up a little company called Macrin Chocolate, where we would buy beans from. But then so then we started the business and started. I mean, I spent months prototyping chocolate, because again, I don't have any background in. Well, let me step back. So what I did while I was back in the States finishing my dissertation was I went and visited a few chocolate companies and interviewed a few chocolate makers. And then I also spent all of my disposable income buying craft chocolate to try to understand and develop a palate for tasting chocolate. So by the time I had come back from the US in 2017 and in May, I had finished my dissertation, and also had a big book of all the wrappers of every chocolate bar I had bought with some notes I had taken. And so when we started developing, prototyping chocolate, it was quite a struggle to get flavor to come out of that cacao. It just didn't taste right. And I was doing everything I could figure out online, and eventually kind of realized that, like, I'm burning all of these beans, I'm over roasting them, and this is why we're getting this extreme bitter taste to it. And so then had to spend a couple of weeks just roasting and recording, little batches of beans, until I figured out this roasting profile. I think a lot of that information now is much easier to find, but at the time, in Thailand, it was not so easy, and there was no other expert in Thailand to go and ask. So once we had kind of made our first batch of chocolate that tasted good, then we could start kind of playing around. And a friend of mine, family had a fig business, invited me to sell chocolate at her booth. And when we had customers come and buy the chocolate, we could see that actually there's a big opportunity here. Because Maru, like our first big customer, was a health food chain, and Maru it must have been through global expansion that they had gotten a distributor rights, because Maru had cut off all export to Thailand. And this customer of ours, a health food chain in Bangkok, who is still a big customer of ours today, went looking around for a replacement chocolate, and we had just launched a website at that time, and that was kind of our first wholesale customer.
So if I can, let's talk a little bit about that, because when I think about Thai cuisine, chocolate doesn't come to the mind, even in the desserts.
Right.
So I'm guessing that, like many other countries in this part of the world, if people are thinking about chocolate, they're thinking about candy bars.
Yes.
right? They're not necessarily thinking
Yeah.
about, you know, single origin, high cocoa content chocolate.
Right.
So, what was so? When I look at the four bars we have here, we have two which are local curries, right? So we have a
Mm.
cow soy curry, which you say soy, which usually means street, can often refer to a kind of noodle, a cut of noodle, right? And so
Like
the
the
cow soy,
action of chopping. Yeah.
the action of chopping. And so with the curry, which is a Chiang Mai, apparently a recipe. I
Yeah.
know that because it says it on the front here. And then tom kha, which is, I know is a coconut milk
Right.
soup, curry, soup. So how, and then we have a Thai tea. So we have
Mm.
the chocolate. Three of the four chocolate we have here are what I think of as, based upon, typical Thai flavor profiles. Right? How do people in Thailand take to the plain dark as opposed to the flavored chocolates that you're doing, which represent the food
Right.
culture that they're used to?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so Thailand, again, this was uh, one of, yeah, Thai consumers. I mean, and things are changing and developing, and we do have a homegrown craft chocolate industry that's pushing the envelope. So typically, the number one selling chocolate, at least from a report I read from a couple years ago, was Ferrero Rocher, and then followed by Kit Kat. And so your average Thai consumer, if they're buying chocolate, one of the problems with a big tablet of chocolate is it's too hot. And so if you're going to buy a 75-gram bar of chocolate, you've got to plan on how you're going to get it home and into the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot more of chocolate consumption is kind of small sized and candy bar focused,
Mm-hmm.
because people will buy it to eat as a snack there, not as an impulse buy for later. Additionally, Thai, most chocolate, like Thais eat a lot of chocolate, but they consume it in beverages and in pastries and cakes and these kind of things. And so so for a tablet of plain dark chocolate, Thai consumers, you're looking at Thai consumers who have maybe traveled outside of Thailand, maybe are a little bit more wealthy and can afford to buy a big, that kind of higher price point chocolate. Imported chocolate in like a Lindt chocolate bar is already a very high price in Thailand because I think of the import, like the tariffs and duties plus the cost of the logistics cost of a chocolate bar that needs to be temperature controlled all the time. And so,
So, I want to jump here and make a parallel because I remember having a similar conversation with a colleague of mine in India
okay,
who's saying, when people in India are consuming chocolate, and this was, I'm going to say 17 years ago almost.
mm-hmm.
I remember specifically the trip I was on in Switzerland in 2008, where we had this conversation. Um, they were talking about, he had a business around pastry and things like that in India, and the preferences for what people were eating were based almost entirely upon cold chain considerations.
Right.
And right, so I have that problem here in Arizona where I am. I mean, I've had much of this chocolate for the series of tasting exercises for a month, right? And we've already hitting 85-degree days here,
Right.
and so trying to make sure that it stays in good condition while I'm getting ready for these is a challenge. But you said something about this burgeoning craft chocolate industry,
Mm,
which is pushing the envelope.
right.
So when you talk about, you know, I already know the answer to this question because we talked about it beforehand. So it's a leading question. If I look at Vietnam and I go, how many craft chocolate makers are there in Vietnam? I know of Maru.
Right.
After that, I would have to really stretch. Now,
Mm,
when I'm thinking about Thailand, there's Cad Coco, there's you. I am really hard pressed to think of anybody,
right.
but that's probably because they're not exporting. mean, I know
Yeah.
there are 500 makers in Peru. Most of them are not exporting.
Right.
But what's craft chocolate look like in Thailand,
Yeah.
and how are they pushing the envelope, and where are people consuming it?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I mean, uh, craft chocolate in Thailand is fascinating and fun. We've got kind of these different, again, with all, one of the nice things about chocolate is you can do many different things with it besides just making chocolate bars. But there are three or four companies that are the older chocolate companies that create tablet chocolate bars as part of their business, or in our case, our exclusive business, and are available at the grocery store. So, Cad Coco sells some at the grocery store. We're probably the most widely distributed. Well, we are the most widely distributed in Thailand. There's another company called Canvella, one called Paradise. Uh, so the four of those you can find at some of the gourmet grocery store chains. And then there's this big set of other chocolate makers that are, there's probably 30, 40 other craft chocolate makers that have created distinctive brands and are trying to do tablets, unique tablets with their own packaging. A lot of them are doing single farm origins from around Thailand. Some are doing European flavors to try to bring to Thai market, and some are doing like what we do is local Thai flavors. And then there's this other subset of makers that are primarily focused on cafe. And again, most chocolate and most craft chocolate in Thailand is being consumed in beverage form. And so you have probably another 100 plus craft chocolate makers that maybe own the trees, or are buying from their community and have a cafe that you have to go all the way out there to visit. They're not distributing anywhere else. And probably 70% of the cacao mass or the base chocolate couverture that they make is going into drinks or pastries. And so we have chocolate, we have a couple craft chocolate associations that have formed. We don't do a tablet competition. They do a chocolate drink competition, and a lot
Can
of
I jump?
interesting.
Can I jump in and ask? Because when I think about coffee from that part of the world, I think of something which is just like insanely sweet.
Right,
So it's sweetened condensed milk
right, right.
is poured into iced coffee. I mean, is this the kind of coffee beverage or chocolate beverage
Uh,
that people are making? It's the equivalent of Thai
yeah.
iced coffee.
So what has happened, and again, this has set up the craft chocolate movement in Thailand in an interesting way. So Thailand used to have this, like you said, like a robusta, sweetened condensed milk, intense. You can still find it. You can still get a Thai iced coffee, but probably 20, 25 years ago, there was a big push to grow Arabica coffee in the mountains of just north of Chiang Mai. 45 minutes away, we can get to coffee farms. And that movement totally transformed Chiang Mai and then Thailand into a specialty coffee area. This all happened before craft chocolate shows up. And so right now, the coffee scene is very competitive. You can get the best coffees in the world in Thailand. You can go to a cafe. The challenge in Chiang Mai is there are 3,000 cafes in our small city, and so every corner has got someone who's doing very good um, coffee and using single origin beans, maybe buying directly from producers and roasting themselves. So the drinking chocolate that we're seeing now is also sophisticated, not this sweet, and it's all iced because it's hot in Thailand. So,
Right.
but they'll be using, I've got a dear friend who owns a chocolate company called Kom, which is the Thai word for bitter, Kom Cafe here in Chiang Mai. And she probably has 15 chocolate drinks on her menu. Each drink is paired with cacao mass from a different origin. So it's matched to the drink, the origin that she'll use. And they come from very thick, very thick, small shots all the way to lots of foam and very creative and layered and, this kind of thing.
I think about sophisticated coffee culture, and I know they're just Japan is amazing in terms of what has happened there. It's like
Mm,
there's a coffee shop on every corner
yeah,
almost, but I don't think that Thai restaurants here in the United States have gotten the clue, right, that there is this other version of iced coffee from Thailand other than this
right.
very very sweet version of it. That's so. How
Well,
many? So
uh,
what you're telling me is that there are hundreds and hundreds of small craft chocolate makers. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them
yeah,
in Thailand.
yeah.
Wow.
Again, I don't have a exact number, but I think the last time we were at the Craft Chocolate Association, they had put out a number close to about 200. Again, it would be challenging to go and
Mm.
find them all because some of them will be a small coffee shop that happens to have some trees. Two or three of my employees have their own cacao farms on their property and are producing chocolate that they sell to their friends. So just in SIAMAYA, I think we've got three other chocolate brands with with employees.
So
Yeah,
let's go there. So let's go there.
yeah,
You know, I just want to make sure, number one, if I look at this for the first time and, being a crazy American, I think Siamaya, and of course it's Siam, right? Which
right,
makes the pronunciation Siamaya, but it's also
right,
the Maya in it. And I'm saying, is there any connection to, Central America? But
right.
so what is the etymology of Siamaya?
Yeah. So I mean, that was exactly when I started the company. My idea was how do we fuse Thai flavors into chocolate, and how do we come up with a name that communicates that, right? And so I spent a month thinking about names and kind of came to this Siam, the old word for Thailand, and then of course the Maya, one of the original chocolate makers. And this would, if we link them together, it kind of communicates the intention of the company, which is to fuse these two flavors together. What I didn't know at the time is that Maya in Sanskrit means illusion, or trickery. So for our Thai consumers, our Thai speakers, they'll often think that that's kind of the intention is, this illusion from Siam, which, yeah, it was too late at that point.
Well, and there is unfortunately, there's no mythology associated. There's no legend associated with cacao in Thailand, but
Right,
we need to come up with one to connect it to
right, right.
some bit of history to make it work. So you had the inspiration to do this sometime in 2016. You start doing the research in 2017, 2018. You're starting to manufacture.
Yeah,
I notice you have a number of awards stickers, right, on the
yeah,
things. And it looks like, 2023 Bonds, the Academy of Chocolate, the 2024 brands in the Academy of Chocolate. There's another one in the Academy of Chocolate, but I seem to think 2019. That's really really fast for the silver in the Asia Pacific International Chocolate Awards. So how important was it to you that you get that sort of international recognition?
right,
It helps you
right.
sell in Thailand. That people
Um,
realize that this.
right. So I think again, I started the company. I mean, nobody, like most Thai consumers' experience with chocolate, and including my very small number of staff at the time, was Kit Kat and Ferrero Rocher and maybe a Lindt chocolate bar. Lindt is very cleverly makes very tiny chocolate bars to sell at 7-Eleven, to deal with this, to try to make it approachable to all consumers. And so more important for me than getting an award to sell chocolate was an award to show our staff that we make chocolate just as good as anyone else, right? Because again, we're kind of in this vacuum. We don't have any other players. We don't. Maybe it was also like proof to myself that we were making chocolate that was as good as what was out there. That was kind of the motivation behind it. You know, yes, I thought perhaps getting some awards would help sell chocolate, but you know, we eventually eventually the company evolved to realize that like our main target is tourists, and we're creating kind of a souvenir of Thailand to take home, and that tourist audience, maybe they'll see an award like, and we are now focused really on our own retail because we get our highest margin, but also their customers don't really compare with other chocolate, right? They only see my chocolate for sale. So there, the awards are maybe helping a consumer decide between two flavors that they're trying to pick from. But on the shelf at the grocery store, you know, perhaps I don't know. Our number one seller is Thai tea, and I don't think and it doesn't have an award. So yeah, but yeah, really it was to show to staff that we can make chocolate that's just as good as anyone else, and yeah.
I'm looking at the box.
Oh,
There's an award on it. So
well, mine.
anyway,
We must have just recently got it because mine does not have an award.
well, I have a
Sticker.
manufacturing date of February, mid-February. So in
Yeah,
any event,
okay.
so I think I think this is a good place to segue into
All
the
right.
tasting part of it. So I'm going to start off with a signature dark. I'm going to start plain. So is either of the two curries a spicy curry?
There is a little bit of chili in both of them, but
Okay.
not a
Okay.
lot. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have some other
I don't.
curries that
I
are a
just
little
don't
more
want to.
spicy.
I just don't want to start there because
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
blow out my palate for everything else. So,
Yeah.
um,
So just to preface our 70%. So the cacao we use now is actually a variety, is the genetic descendants of a variety called Chumpan 1 that was developed by Thai government in the 1980s that kind of disappeared from the market and showed up 12, 13 years ago. And this is what most cacao in Thailand is. So this bar is quite characteristic of, if you try a Thai cacao, this is generally what it,
it's most
yeah,
likely to be this varietal.
correct. Presently, and we just now are starting to have farms importing known strains from Philippines or from Vietnam, but right now, probably 90% of cacao in Thailand is this
Gotcha.
variety. Yeah.
Right. So I open it up, of course, and the first thing I see on the inside of it is this. Here's the name, SIAMAYA.
Yeah, yeah.
So all right. So it's not on the outside. Got that. You know, and a lot of the important information is actually written in Thai, and
Yeah.
it didn't occur to me to stick my phone on this and do the translation for it. So let's go take a look at this. So it's in good condition. I want to let you know. All right.
Nice.
So it hasn't bloomed. So we're doing the straight 70%. Oh, it's a beautiful mold too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. You know, it's interesting. You know, the temperature here is like going to be in the like low 70s. So Europeans 23, 24 centigrade, somewhere around that. So the snap is nice and crisp, right? And the aroma of this is just, you know, it's plain chocolate, but there's a sort of very very tiny hint of, you know, what I think of as baked brownie, right? In there. So there is that which is rounder and softer. You know, there is no hint of over roasting on the nose. So I want to let you know you've done that. So it's interesting. The bite and chew are a little bit softer than the snap would let me believe. The first flavor hit is chocolate, and then it goes immediately to fruit.
Yeah.
Now, my first thought is of a tropical fruit. It's not as acidic as, say, a passion fruit. It's a little brighter than something like a papaya, but it's sort of in that sort of
Mm.
papaya, guava. It's not as citric, um, but it is this wonderful little tropical fruit note. And then it starts beating back and forth between the fruit and the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
The chocolate comes through, comes through,
No,
and it
no.
starts off, people who've been watching these know that I like to use the electronic music analogy,
Mm.
attack, decay, sustain, release. So it starts off, fairly simple, and then there's this explosion of fruit, and it
Mm.
just goes bang in the mouth, right? So the attack starts like this and goes like this, and then the fade is long and slow, and the finish is of cocoa and
Mm.
chocolate in the back of the mouth, at the back of the tongue, down the throat, right, and there is a faint hit of that fruitiness,
Mm.
right, at the um, on the nose, but it clears cleanly and quickly. I mean, it's an interesting. I haven't eaten a whole lot of
Mm.
Thai chocolate. I believe the only other one that I ever had is the Cad Cocoa,
Yeah.
but and it's been like pre-COVID. It's been a while since the last
Okay.
time I've done it. So when you go from the plain 70% into something like the tea, are you roasting it differently so that the tea notes? Because I think that
Yeah.
fruitiness is going to be a little kind of weird with the tea.
Right. So we do a couple different things. So kind of a lot of it came out of we have not had any investment, and as a foreigner in Thailand are unable to secure like credit lines. And so we've had to do a lot of creative ways to figure out how to make chocolate and how to scale chocolate. So what makes our 70% a little bit unique versus our other chocolate is that we will run the chocolate through a mini universal conch kind of for 12 hours first, and then conch it in a melanger for another day and a half or 2 days, mostly so that we can cut a day off of production and keep running more
Mhm.
chocolate through. But it does keep more of that fruitiness and make it a little bit smoother than just running it through a melanger. With our milk chocolate, like we'll do with the tea, we run it through a melanger for 72 hours. And so it does mellow it out a little bit.
Mhm.
I personally like our plain milk chocolate. I think that a little bit of fruitiness gives it this unique character. But, we have worked over time to try to mellow out the acidity with the milk chocolate, because people sometimes will conflate acidity with sour milk, right? Not with the cacao.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is that. That there is that wondering. So I'm looking at this. There is no percentage listed on the milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's a 50% cacao.
okay, so dark milks, which I love.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
so
that's the
I'm looking at the back of this bar, and are you fully refining the tea into the chocolate?
so it's not this is like a Thai milk tea that you get in the grocery store, right? That I
Okay.
mean, at a Thai restaurant, that orange with sweetened condensed, very sweet
Hmm.
tea. That's the flavor we're going for. So what we are using is a pre-refined tea powder that's meant to be used with ice cream. So it is tea, natural tea, but it's been powderized fine enough that it won't affect texture. So we don't refine it in. We will add it in the in
Gotcha.
the tempering phase.
I was
Yeah.
just looking and wondering. There was a texture on the back of the bar that reminded me of something that like might have been mixed in.
Okay. Yeah.
So um, so the aroma on this is not the robust chocolatiness of the
Mm.
70%. It's muted by the milk, but I'm not getting anything that I identify as tea on it. Is it a specific Thai tea? Is it a specific variety of tea, or
It's I mean, so a traditional Thai milk tea is a black tea base that has some powderized bale fruit, which gives it the orange color, and then some spices.
okay?
Yeah. So you might be able to pick up some of the texture of the.
So it's interesting. I don't consume a lot of Thai tea.
Mm.
I will, if I'm going to have one. I for some reason I go with the coffee. I'm not entirely sure why that is. So I really don't have a flavor referent for what Thai tea should be. Right? But the snap on this is what I would expect for roughly a 50% milk
Mm.
chocolate. When I do milk chocolates and dark milk chocolates, I want something which is a little softer.
Mm.
Either the expectations of the milk powder or some additional cocoa butter or something like that, just a higher fat content with more cocoa in it. The bite and chew on this are nice and soft.
Mm.
Um, and there's a substantial quality to this. It melts a little more slowly than a plain dark chocolate does. And I think that's the milk and the tea is slowing it down. So it fills your mouth in a different way, which I think is from the tea, not from the milk. Now, if this is domestic milk powder, I don't know that it is, right? So I have no idea what the cows are eating. And so I've had milk chocolate from milk made in other countries, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what are those cows eating, right? Because the milk is, I'm not used to that flavor. That's not the issue here, but it's different from a Swiss milk and a Swiss milk chocolate. It
So
takes
we use
longer.
oh,
Go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say we use so we try to use all Thai ingredients. The one ingredient we have to import is milk powder. And so this is the grass-fed milk from New Zealand, the full fat
Okay.
grass-fed milk. So when I have made that milk by itself, it is definitely a stronger, you can kind of taste the grass almost, but I think in the milk chocolate it adds that nice kind of
Yeah.
richness.
Well, I lived in New Zealand for 3.5 years. I don't ever remember having powdered milk while I was there. I mean, we had the milkman deliver in 1 quart bottles,
Okay.
at the bottom of the lane a couple of times a week. Yes, we have this little wire carrier, and we put the empty bottles in the wire carrier and put the money in the bottom of one of the bottles in the milk can. So it's one of the advantages of living in a country like New Zealand. But so there is a very faint texture to the tea powder, which is there, and that texture manifests itself very differently from when you have slightly under refined cocoa.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sort of sandiness to it, which I'm sure you know the texture of under refining to it. But the texture here, doesn't present itself that way because it's an inclusion, right? And so it's the fat is wrapped around it in a different kind of way. It's an interesting expression of the tea. I mean, I like the experience of eating it, right? From the way it melts and the way it fills the mouth and the way it cleans out. It's, as a milk chocolate, it's very, very different from a plain milk chocolate, in a good way. But it's not what I expected, right? Number one is like,
you got to go try a Thai tea next time you go to a Thai restaurant, and then you'll see the flavor.
Right. I live in small town North Central Arizona. We have a Thai restaurant. I've been in there once or twice. I don't know if they have Thai tea on the menu. I'm gonna have to go and see if they do the next time I do that. But again, number one is like put 50% on it, just because
Yeah.
the next time you print it, because that makes sense. But the other thing about it is that being at 50% and the recipe the way it is it's not overwhelmingly sweet, which is, if I were to think of Thai tea the same way I think of Thai coffee,
Right.
I would think of it as being overwhelmingly sweet, and it's not. Dark milk chocolates are what I like to go to. They're my go-to for recreational eating.
Okay.
When I just want to put something in my mouth and have it put a smile on my face, and I don't want to deconstruct it. I don't want to think about all these things. One of the things I will say for people who are following along who might be interested in this is that this is we're trying just to compare the textural difference of this chocolate with another milk chocolate. Now, it may not be to your taste. I happen to like it, right? But it's worth going and saying, this is an interesting stylistic choice, right? Where the flavor is not like over the top tea, right? So it doesn't come across as, punch you in the face. Hi, I'm tea, right? It's part of a way of, in some respects, of modifying the flavor of the chocolate, right? If that makes sense. I mean, I don't know what your intent was for this.
Well, so one of the, Thai cuisine and they, like, in Thailand, they take food seriously, and we, especially when it comes to traditional Thai dishes. And so there is kind of the best Thai dishes have all of the 5 flavors, if you count umami as one of the flavors, represented in that dish, and they're not subtle. They're all full experience. So that's now become my job, is not so much to, we have staff who've come up with amazing flavors. My job is to make sure we can still taste chocolate. So at the Thai tea, it's very easy to add so much, or to add a little bit more, and then you don't taste chocolate. And so that is kind of my intention, is whatever flavors we make, if we're not tasting chocolate, we're not doing it right. And that's why it ends up being a little more subtle than, right.
Yeah, because if there is one word I would use to describe the flavors of Thai cuisine, subtle is not it.
Right.
We're going to hit you. We're going to hit you over the head with the sourness. We're going to hit you over the head with the sweetness.
Right.
We're going to hit you over the head with spiciness. I mean, right. Oh, yeah, no. But it's also, nice and clean. It's been a while since this is cleared out of my mouth. I've had a little drink of water, but I can still sort of sense it in my mouth, a couple of minutes later, which is a really, really interesting fact about the chocolate. We have 2 left. We have 2 different curries. Where should I start?
So
the milk chocolate cow soy.
Yeah.
By the way, everybody should know that Thai is a tonal language, right? And so, just by mispronouncing a word, you can completely change what the word means. So
yeah, this is my failed attempt at speaking Thai. When we started selling chocolate, I would yell at customers, "Sai nom," which can either translate as, depending on the tone, chocolate. I would say chocolate sai nom, so it'd be chocolate with milk, or it can be chocolate shake your breasts. And so after butchering it enough times, someone kindly came up and asked me to just say chocolate nom, and we'll get the context.
All right.
So khao soi is a Burmese dish, and it's a kind of fusion of Thai flavor and an Indian flavor. And Burma and Chiang Mai have kind of conquered each other for hundreds of years, back and forth. And so this dish has kind of come into into northern Thailand as a signature dish. And it's crispy noodles. Our bar has got a little bit of curry powder, crispy noodles, and fried shallots. So it's our most savory chocolate bar we make.
Gotcha. So I'm looking at the back of it, and so we can see the crispy noodles and
Yeah.
the are this also the fried shallots because they're in big pieces?
Yeah. Yeah. You might see a little bit of fried shallots there. Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering where the aroma came from because I'm smelling the back of it and the number
Yeah.
one flavor I get is caramelized onion,
Yeah.
right? Which is what coming from the fried shallot. Now, are you familiar with the Goodnow Farms in Massachusetts? They make a caramelized onion bar,
Yes. Yes. I have tried that one. It's quite nice. Yeah.
right? And I'm wondering, you know, how close this experience is going to be. I mean, is this the same 50% milk?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same milk chocolate base. Yeah, no, the just cracking it open and it's just I'm not the onion flavor is overwhelming the curry in here, right
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
nose. Um, so the curry, which is very mild, comes through at the end, right?
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if people could hear me crunching on the noodles, right? But as an inclusion bar, this has got everything I want in an inclusion bar. It's got this interesting texture. The caramelized shallot is, you know, the through line flavor. I mean, it
Mm.
just carries through from the initial aroma all the way through the taste. There's a little bit of fattiness from the noodle, which comes through as a taste, not an aroma.
Mm.
So, in addition to the crunchiness, I would say if you could find a way to do something like put a peanut in it,
Mm.
right, you'd have something that would replace a rocher from a textural component.
Right. We
Because
do
I
a
think one of
peanut.
the
We do a peanut curry as well. Yeah.
right. So, but where is the dark chocolate? It had this very very small, the very very quiet start and this rapid explosion of the fruit which came through. This one has got this very very simple. It's there's it's the same loudness for want of a better term, right? It doesn't get soft, it doesn't get quiet, it doesn't get big. It
Mm.
just comes along. But what happens as it goes along is that first you have the the caramelized shallot and then or the fried shallot and then you get um, the curry comes through and then the shallot comes back and it goes back and forth and the chocolate is sitting underneath there,
Mm.
right? And at the end there's something else that's coming through at the end in a positive way, right? And I think it might be as part of the curry spice blend. um,
Mm.
but again, it's just it's one of these things that you can just sit here and I'm gonna eat another piece of this, and I will because it's everything that I love in a milk chocolate inclusion bar. Um, and I'm doing this, and it's just putting a smile on my face because it's fun. It's fun, right? Which is what I'm getting here. But it's one of those chocolates that if you like close your eyes and you start paying attention to the way the flavors um, change over time in the mouth. I mean, it's fun, but there's it rewards attention. There's a serious
Mm.
component to it, which is really interesting. I mean, I don't know anything about this style of curry, except
Yeah.
now I want to visit Chiang Mai as soon as I possibly can. Right,
Please, please come.
have a bowl of this curry, right,
Yeah.
and
It's
then have a flavor
yeah.
reference for this bar.
Well, one of my friends just wrote up a top 10 top 10 cow soys in Chiang Mai for a travel magazine, and she put the SIAMAYA bar as number 4.
Gotcha.
But yeah, please do come. I mean, it on the guidebook it does clearly say as one of the top things to do in Chiang Mai is eat cow soy. So yeah, but this
No,
one
no.
was
I mean,
for me a
I want to hit. You said there are what, like 3,000 coffee shops, cafes?
yeah
I want to see how
yeah
many
there's
of them I can hit and how many different coffee drinks I
yeah.
can get in there.
But the cow soy was a fun one because that one came later after we had done a peanut curry and a coconut curry and a couple other flavors. And so that one I was the first. Usually, what happens when I come up with a flavor, especially something complicated,
Mhm.
is we say we're going to try pad thai, which we have tried, and we iterate 20 times, or fried rice, pineapple fried rice. We iterate 20 times, and it just doesn't capture what we're looking for.
Mhm.
Or with the cow soy, I did all the mental work. I thought through all of the things. I came up with the recipe in my brain, and we tried it. And the first time, I mean, the ratios were off, but the first time we nailed the concept. So that was kind of
Mhm.
fun to have at least one chocolate bar that came out, not needing iterations.
Gotcha. Right. And I'm only thinking if I think about, doing a version of this, which is if you were to, you know, take some crushed peanuts
Mm,
and then cook them in a sugar and vinegar,
mm, mm, mm.
right? So you get the sharpness of the vinegar in here with
Right.
the sweetness and caramel, and use
Mm,
them in this same or similar kind of thing. I think it would
yeah.
be a lot of fun. I mean, maybe we'll have to play, right,
Yeah,
when I come and visit.
please.
Um, so what makes a tomka a tomka?
Yeah. So good question. So the Thai word ka is the Thai word for galangal. And so it's a
Which is a
tom
kind of
ka is
ginger.
it's a type of local ginger. So the tom ka is a coconut Thai ginger soup, galangal soup. And if you don't have that galangal note, then our Thai consumers will say that that's not a tom ka. So this is our
Right.
most herbally. This is a very herbally uh, chocolate bar, and the base chocolate we're using is a 65% coconut milk with 10% coconut milk powder. And so it's less sweet than the other bars we've tried. It also has some candied tomato in it, which is kind of the unique.
Okay. So the front of this says 65% dark chocolate, but you just
Yeah,
said coconut milk. So
yeah.
is the coconut milk part of the chocolate recipe, or is the coconut milk
Mhm.
added in someplace else?
So when we first started, um, Chiang Mai was quite a big kind of alternative food focused city. So there were lots of vegans and that kind of thing. And so we wanted to make a chocolate, like a milk chocolate bar that we could do flavors with that wouldn't have that would be all plant based. So that's why we did this coconut milk chocolate. Again, I think everyone has that same. So it's coconut milk powder uh, processed into the chocolate, like we were doing a regular milk chocolate. We then add some toasted coconut flakes because the challenge with doing with conching for so long in a melanger is that you remove flavor, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
intention, and coconut flavor gets conched out pretty quickly. And so when we
Mm-hmm.
had the plain coconut milk without toasted coconut added, we were getting some customers saying, "I don't feel any coconut."
Gotcha. Well, and the toasted coconut also adds some interesting texture in there because it's
Yeah.
not fully refined in,
Yeah.
and I remember many years ago speaking with Michael Antonorsi, who is who is the founder of Chihuahua Chocolatier in San Diego, and they made a sun-dried tomato and lemon peel
Mm.
ganache bonbon. And so the
Okay.
idea of putting processed tomatoes
Yeah.
into chocolate, doesn't surprise me, and
Mm.
except I'm surprised more people don't do it,
Mm.
because I think there are lots of interesting ways to do it. And you open up the bar, and if you look at the side of it, I mean, there's lots of interesting bits that say, there's lots of stuff in here. And I do like, this coconut curry soup. It's one thing that I try when I go to Thai restaurants, because it's difficult to do well. Right. And so you can look at it and say, if you can make this well, then chances are your kitchen can do other things really well. But, the ingredients list on the back of this says lemongrass, the galangal, the candied tomato, and the chilies, and they're all there. Each one of them is there. And they're not all there at the same time. There's a balance of them. You go, this is the coconut. And this is the chili. And the lemongrass is just sitting up here, adding this like sort of brightness, and this vegetal quality all the way through. I mean, it's yummy. It's yummy. I mean, what else do you want to say about bar chart? Now, I think 3 of the 4 of these things I would have no trouble whatsoever finishing all of 3 of them right. tonight. Right. It's getting on 8 o'clock here in Arizona. If I did not restrain myself, all 4 of them, 3, they would be gone in the next 4 hours if I'm not careful. So in that respect, well done. Well done. I understand why all these bars won the awards that they won. Right. And for people who might also be wondering, there's a tendency, I think, sometimes in craft chocolate to focus on the single origin, nothing added, right? So no extra cocoa butter. We want a neutral sweetener. So that what we're doing is we're focusing on the cocoa. And I think that if you're a chocolate maker working in a producing country, so you grow cocoa in Thailand, right? Let's play with the local flavors of the cuisine and find ways to merge them with the chocolate, and not just the flavors, but the textures, because there's a lot of really, really interesting textures that come to play in Thai food as well. That if you're not exploring those combinations, I think you're missing an opportunity, right? So, and that's what I appreciate about these the most. I mean, I know there are lots of different kinds of curries in the world. Just I know there are lots of different kinds of garam masala in India. It's just a general term. So, right. And so having 2 different styles of curry right next to each other, right in a chocolate bar. I mean, people go out and buy these and try those, right? Because it's going to be a lot of fun and you will be surprised, which is something that, a lot of chocolate bars don't do these days. They're not surprising. And I that's one of the things that I go, whoa, right? That's, it's an interesting idea, but I put it in my mouth and I'm surprised. And that's a rare thing to have. So you're in Thailand and I'm in the United States. Can we buy these in the United States?
Yeah, good question. So we do have a couple shops that sell. So Jack at Chocolate Covered in San Francisco carries them. Mon Ami Chocolate in Pittsburgh
Amy,
has some. Yeah,
Amy. Right.
Amy's got
well,
some.
The next time, my daughter lives in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to go tell her, right, to go over, because so anybody who doesn't know Pittsburgh, Mon Ami is in the Strip district, right, and it is a surprisingly unheralded. There's that word surprise again. When we think about chocolate shops in the United States, most people don't think about going to Pittsburgh, and it's great. There's also some great coffee in the Strip district and lots of really good food in Pittsburgh as well. But anyway,
Pittsburgh's great.
So we got
and
chocolate covered Mon Ami,
and then the Chocolate House in DC.
Were you at the DC Chocolate Festival?
We did not, but we did a tasting there. I did a tasting there I think 2 weeks before.
Mhm.
And so they've got, we shipped them chocolate recently. So they've got, I think, supply. And then we have, I'm trying to think. We did send chocolate to a couple other places, and I can maybe send a list to you afterwards.
If you do
Yeah.
that, what I will do, so we're negotiating a couple of things here, everybody. What I will do is I will put together a post. So
Okay.
if you're watching this recording, I will have pointed out the post on the Chocolate Life for this episode,
Yeah.
and if the names of places to purchase this chocolate are not in the post, they will be added and updated shortly after the episode goes live, which is on this coming Friday, which is just
Yeah.
a couple of days from now. So we're here for an hour. I want to respect the fact that this is the beginning of your work day in Thailand. Some closing thoughts, Neil?
Sure. Well, it's been, I mean, I think as everyone in the chocolate industry is, it's got lots of ups and downs, but can be quite a fun space to be in and a delicious space to be in. And, I've really enjoyed being in Thailand, be able to participate in and also observe kind of how chocolate can change lives, can change palates, can open up people to new experiences.
Mhm.
And so I personally have felt quite, you know, quite blessed that I've had this opportunity to be here and to help participate a little bit. And, I think keep watching, any chocolate lover out there, keep watching Thailand. I think it's only going to increase in availability and in interesting things coming out of the country. Right now, the big challenge for folks outside of Thailand is almost all the beans are being consumed locally, so very little is making its way out of Thailand. So it's kind of a challenge. But if you want a unique experience, I mean, anytime you plan your next trip to Thailand, and there are many chocolate farms and or cacao farms and chocolate shops and factories to come visit. You can come visit our location. We have open arms to receive anyone who wants to come and check it out. And thank you so much for this opportunity to come and
Yeah.
chat with you. It's been a pleasure.
It's one of the reasons why going to events like the Salon du Chocolat, right, is,
Yeah.
I'm going to go there because I know a lot of my friends are going to be there, and often, I only get to see them once a year or once every 2 years. So everybody gathering in a place is a wonderful thing. But it's also a place where serendipity happens. You get an opportunity to meet people for the first
Yeah.
time, and to taste their work, and you get a chance to share and celebrate the work that you're doing, which is one of the reasons why I do these tasting and interview episodes of Pod Safe Chocolate. And with that, Neil, I want to thank you very much for joining me today, and to say I'm looking forward to figuring out some way to get to Thailand sooner
Thanks.
rather than later. And maybe what we can do is we can discuss organizing a trip of chocolate fans to come
Yes. Yeah.
and visit. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's something to think of. But in any
All
event, thank
right.
you very much. And until the next time, until the next time, everyone, um, this has been the interview with Neil Ransom of SIAMAYA Chocolate. I want to point out that there, rather than individually listing all of the places where you can purchase SIAMAYA in the United States, I have linked to the page from the PodSaveChocolate episode on the Chocolate Life. So if you go to this part, you'll see the SIAMAYA logo in this little rectangle. There's a button that says Find SIAMAYA, and it comes to this page. And not only in the United States, but also available in Europe and other locations around the world. They're all there. That way I don't have to worry about keeping the page up to date every time Neil and crew update the page. This page will be updated. And with that, it's time to say thank you very much to everybody who's been watching. To say that this coming Sunday, the 18th of May, is the monthly AMA Ask Me Anything episode. It begins at 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Mountain Standard Time. The link to join the episode is in the monthly newsletter. And that monthly newsletter you can see here on the homepage. If you are a member and you're signed into your account, you will be able to see the link. Right, so I'm signed into the account. Here is the link to join the call on Sunday. Ask me anything. We can talk about anything that you like, as long as it pertains to cocoa and chocolate. That's the only restriction. And to say that this episode, oh, you know what? I am no longer pre-recorded. I am live. This episode of Pod Save Chocolate is sponsored by the members of The Chocolate Life. If you're not a member, you can support what we're doing by clicking on the account button, clicking on the join button, becoming a member. There's always a free membership, but if you do have the resources, I don't do Patreon. I'm not accepting network advertising. The support that you give through becoming a premium member of The Chocolate Life keeps these and other episodes on the air. I have added a looking for me to cover a topic. There's now a suggestion button on the homepage. I'll move it around, but I'm going to try to keep it as to the extent that I can. I'm going to try to keep it visible. Let's see, this coming Tuesday is the monthly News and AMA episode. And then a week from Tuesday is the final tasting and interview episode for the month of May here on the Pod Save Chocolate. And I'm going to be tasting, I think, 5 bars from Baiani in Brazil. They have a farm, so the factory is in São Paulo, but they do have a farm, Vale Potomuju, which is in the southern Bahia state. I haven't been to the farm, although I've been very, very near where that farm is. And I have been just extremely fortunate to have been able to spend time with both Tuta Aquino, who I know is joining me, hopefully his partner in life and in chocolate, Juliana, will be able to join us as well. But that's the 27th of the month, the final tasting episode for the month of May. And with that, I just need to remind everybody that if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Until the next time, everybody, ciao.